Broadcasting live from unknown remote locations and not their parents' basements. It's B2B Tonight with Ryan O'Hara and John Mazza, featuring Patrick Campbell, CEO of Profitwell, and Steve Richard, co-founder and chief evangelist at ExecVision. And now, everybody welcome our host, Ryan O'Hara.
Hello, everybody. Ryan O'Hara here, coming to you live from LeadIQ Studios, which is a fictional studio that's really just a weird, crummy bedroom in my house with no windows. It's isolating and alone. But you know what we're not isolated and alone with tonight? We've got John Mazza with us. Say hi, John Mazza.
Oh, hey, everybody. As I'm in my basement, we're very isolated and alone right now.
You know what, dude? That's why we're here. We're going to gather together. We're going to have a little bit of a kumbaya circle, grab the acoustic guitar, and everyone's going to boo you as you sit around the fire.
That's what usually happens. Yeah.
That's what we go for.
Especially if I'm the one on the guitar.
I guess that's true. We've got a great show for you tonight, way better than the host that you have on the show. We've got Steve Richard, who is a chief evangelist and co-founder of ExecVision, and we've got Patrick Campbell from Profitwell. Let me just tell you this. These two guys are awesome, and I think it's going to be a full gauntlet of teaching you some stuff about sales. You're going to learn some stuff about retention. You're going to learn full funnel stuff. We might even have a couple surprises in store. Who knows what happens, right? That's kind of the mystery here. Speaking of surprises, I got a little thing to tell you about, Mazza.
Ooh, what do you want to talk about? Let's do this.
For the people that don't know, we've been doing something at LeadIQ called Sales Madness. Basically, what we're doing is we asked everyone online to suggest people that they follow in the sales world. Some of them are vendors that work in the sales world, industry experts and trainers. What else? There's practitioners and real sales leaders. We asked people to nominate people that they think are awesome. And then we looked at how many followers they had on LinkedIn, and we made a bracket called Sales Madness. And we've been doing this bracket for a little while now. We're getting toward the end now of the whole tournament. It's really exciting. But something happened. What happened, Mazza, exactly?
Well, I think the biggest thing that came up out of this was some beef with people that didn't make the list. And one name in particular, Mr. Raj Nation Nathan. Raj Nation Nathan. That's kind of a tongue twister. But at the same time, he spits rhymes that, that we tried to keep up with. Yeah,
so a little thing happened. We were online one night, and I just texted Mazza. I was like, did you just see what happened? And Raj actually posted a rap diss track at me and Mazza for not including him on the bracket. And naturally, we were hurt. We had no other choice but to let's show it. Let's show the rap diss track. Let's jump to it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I ain't seen my motherfucking brand, so I bust your bracket, you whack motherfucking Chi-Town. LeadIQ going down. And you know when I come around, fellas, I bring the truth. It's First off, your bracket, your seeding's fake. Hype man, when I land, better peep the name. You claim to have the madness, but I ain't there. I bust on y'all matchups, Ryan scared. John Mazza doesn't see me, turn me into a hater. How you gonna leave me out of your 16 trainers? I keep on coming while I'm running through your feed, steady thumbing, but I'm nothing in your seeds. That shit is weak. Lil Richie, go check your bracket, how I leave it. Tear them papers up, leave it in pieces, and throw it deep. Yo, Ryan, don't wanna mess with Raj Nation. Quickest set your sales madness on vacation. And I ain't waiting, I let them fellas know I should have been picked. A bubble team, y'all some double mint. LeadIQ, you ain't trying to be hype. That's cool, hype man for life, right? Right. Change your plans when you see hype man. Guard your brand when you see hype man. Scott Leeson, Morgan Ingram got a digit, but I didn't, and y'all turned me to a menace. So now I hit them up. Y'all just peep my style for a second. I don't even know why I'm doing this diss track. Y'all ain't even on my level. I should just go find some of my homies and let them ride out on you LeadIQ dudes. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand how y'all come out with the sales madness bracket and my name is missing. When it comes to madness, hype man is like the macho man. We are synonymous with madness. So if I'm not in there, I can't have it. That's all I'm saying. So here's what's gonna happen. Y'all keep posting and I'm just gonna keep heckling. I'm gonna be in your comments. I'm gonna be in your inbox. I'm gonna be in your DMs. Hell, I may even show up on B2B Tonight just to get my thoughts out and air it out just so I can get it right, all right? So like, look, I guess I really shouldn't even be that mad or anything, because like, I'm out here, I don't need to be in your story, you dig? I'm out here building my own category and shit. So like, if I'm in this bracket next year, y'all gonna need to create a 5th region just for me, and that region's gonna be called Hype. And I'm gonna win that region, and I'm gonna take it all the way to the championship round. You dig? But y'all, yo, this is just in good fun. You know, it's just playing. It's all family out here. I got love for the LeadIQ crew. So here's what I want everybody to do. It's real simple. Just go out, go onto your LinkedIn feeds and vote in the Sales Madness bracket. Just like the election, your vote counts, your vote matters. My name may not be in there, but guess what? I still endorse, I still support. I got nothing but love for y'all, fam. So that's what we do. I hit them up, but I also come back with the hugs. Socially distanced hugs, I mean. All right, Hype Man out. Word up. Raise up. Hey, Ryan.
Well, there you go. What'd you think of that, Mazza? I feel like I'm gonna need some Tums for all the burns you just gave me in my stomach.
Raji, I mean, he obviously has some rhymes. You know, the man practices quite a bit, but at the same time, you know, I think we could have done better, and I think we did do better. I think we have the upper hand here. So, you know, Raj ain't got nothing on us, Ryan, right?
Yeah, well, I guess the only thing that makes more sense and the only honorable thing to do is introduce the man himself to come say hi to everybody before we jump into the interviews with Steve and Patrick. Raj, what's up, man?
Oh, no. He brought his own belt.
Wow, look at this.
You swing at the king, you best not miss.
Oh, no.
I feel like you're just gonna get out of your chair and attack the camera. You're so intense with those tracks you spat at me and Mazza, her team. You know what my favorite part is? Rishi hasn't worked at our company for like 4 months and he still got attacked.
I think he just wanted to use the Lil Rishi line.
Yeah,
he just really line. Wanted to use a Lil Rishi line.
Well, I actually didn't know that he didn't, because he only changed his LinkedIn profile like 2 weeks ago. I think. Yeah. I just was never paying attention. And this whole time, I thought he was still at the company. So to my knowledge, when I made that, he was at the company. And even if he wasn't, he still deserved to get thrown into the mix.
Yeah, exactly. He misses us either way. I'm sure.
We talk to him all the time still. So for people that don't know, we're actually going to have you on as a surprise guest today with Steve Richard and Patrick Campbell. Raj, why should people know you? What's your deal?
What is my deal? Yo, what's up, everybody? Raj Nation right here. You may know me through that introduction of coming out with the fire, like Dylan on Chappelle, spitting that hot fire. But my name is Raj Nation. My company is Startup Hype Man, and I basically help companies pitch anything to anyone. And that's why I like to be here on B2B Tonight, like I said in the song, so I can air it out and get it right, all right? But real talk, though, beyond that, this is all about having fun with you guys, having fun with the crew here, and you know, maybe I can add some knowledge here for everybody on how to pitch things or how to sell things, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that sounds great. So we are doing something in reaction to Raj that I thought was interesting. I spat back and made a rebuttal track. It's not that good. You have way better flow than I do, but I did make the instrumentations for it, and Mazza made a rebuttal track too. Let's jump into mine really quick, and then we'll jump into we'll show Mazza's, then jump into the interviews.
You want to fight?
That's my prompt to play the video. I don't know if that works.
You ready for this? That's right, I'm coming for you. Oh yeah, I'm spitting back. Green team, baby! Uh-oh. I'm getting sick and dizzy.
I can't stand, I spit rhymes faster than you can. I can't even make my own beats. Why help sales reps get all their leads? You steal songs from Tupac Shakur, while I'm like Biggie on the sales floor. Look at me, I'm Raj Nation. Let me give you some education. Close some deals and close your mouth. Our brackets are tight, don't speak no doubt. Sure, you may be a startup hype man, using our brackets to build up up your brand. So here's a challenge just for you. A special bracket sponsored by LeadIQ. John Mazza versus Rob Nation. Winner takes all, loser gives a donation.
Wow. Wow. So there, what do you think, Raj? What did you feel when you saw that? What did you feel inside? Did you feel yourself shivering in fear?
On the low, I saw that and I said, okay, all right. Dude's got some bars he wants to come back with. No, I honestly, when I saw that, I was almost rolling on the floor laughing at it. It was like a full-on like Rafflecopter over here. Because I'm super impressed you made the beat on that, and then two, the like I was laughing most at I steal rhymes from Tupac Shakur and you're like Biggie on the sales floor.
I literally don't know anything. Yeah, I don't know anything.
chapstick.
I don't know anything about rap culture, so I had to like go on Wikipedia and come up with stuff just to get some street cred for you. So I just so people know, what we're going to do instead is we decided to make a bracket that you can go on LeadIQ's LinkedIn page. There's a poll up where you can vote between Mazza and Raj, and whoever ends up getting the most votes, the winner is going to donate $250 to Uncrushed, which is a charity our friend Richard Harris, friend of the show, is involved with. They help people with increasing awareness of like mental distress and anxiety and depression, things like that for people in the sales space. Mazza decided to hype up his own track too to counter, because it's 2-on-1, and that's what happens when we run the show at B2B Tonight. You want to play Mazza's real quick, and then we'll jump into the interview.
We can't do it ourselves. We need all the help we can get.
What's up, Raj Nation? Yo, when I heard you were talking shit about LeadIQ, I was like, you? What?
What's up, Raji?
Plus, our click, Raj. You love our style, man.
What's up, Raji?
Not hitting goals, we see you. Follow the king of B2. Beat tonight on your telly, proving that Raj is jelly. Brace yourself, is this the main event? Nah, it's beef in the making, like when the polls dropped. What's the results? Lots positive. Who's the best? Not Raj and them. Ain't no best. Whether you're from the north, south, east, west, I'd expect Raj Nation to be gone. First round, not found. Upsets less strong. Not saying Raj is garbage. Ryan's backup hype man could be an option. If you prove your skills on the phone, on top of your dome, peep this remix. Stick to your yoga, cause Ryan's the truest. Name an SCR, he ain't influence. Made these brackets, but now we got our eyes on the movement. Not half of Ryan's fame, sales madness would prove it. Check it.
Wow. Mazza's gonna need a corporate card to buy all the microphones he damaged from dropping right there.
I'm so impressed at all the cutscenes that you both put into each of your videos. I just did like a one take, and then I put an iMovie filter over it.
It looks great.
You both went like extreme with it.
You did that all in one take? That's impressive too.
Yeah.
We had to make up for our weak flows.
Yeah.
We had to make up for our weak flows and rhymes. So,
before everyone plummets and leaves, it says, "What is going on?" Our first guest that we're gonna have on today is co-founder, chief evangelist at ExecVision. He's coached thousands of sales teams out there. This guy is such a baller. I once watched him make a cold call on stage at a conference and couldn't believe he did it. And he actually had a connect. And I don't think I've ever seen a room stand and clap louder afterward. Everybody say hi to Steve Richard. What's up, Steve?
Hey, how you doing? I wish I could spit like you guys. That was amazing. You're the only guy in New Hampshire, Ryan, by the way, who's ever done anything like that, I think. Yeah.
I think that's true. I don't think there's any well-known New Hampshire You know what we do is we actually have a lot of comedians like Adam Sandler, Seth Meyers, Sarah Silverman. A bunch of people are from the New Hampshire area, like Bedford, New Hampshire and stuff. That's all we got. We don't have like any hope at all for being in rap or anything. So Steve, one of the things I kind of want to focus on today, and by the way, I want to let people know, even though we're streaming this on Zoom, if you have any questions for Steve, you can ask them there, and we can try and answer them. So feel free. I want to talk a lot's changed in the past year with selling, Steve, and I kind of wanted to pick your brain a little bit about like what you've noticed in coaching, what you've noticed from calls you've been listening to, like the clients you work with and stuff. Like, what are some big things that have changed in sales recently that you think? Obviously, there's COVID, but like, what are some things that are different now than they were a couple of years ago?
Well, there are several big themes. One of it is field people, of course, are now kind of like inside sales people, and they're starting to get measured the same way. And this is freaking them out in many ways. So that's going to be one theme we're going to see going forward is if and how that's going to change back. What's that going to look like? Another big one is there's a lot of preconceptions and personal biases that are getting in the way. A big one is calling cell phone numbers. For whatever reason, people are like, they have this really strong conviction on like, you should not ever call. I had one of my tips of the day, and I had some guy just jump on and attack me. I wasn't even referencing cell phone numbers. I usually do. And say, like, this is wrong. You're wrong for doing this. And I'm like, whoa. But we have data that shows it's working, and dial to connect rates we're seeing better than they've ever been. I mean, like, I'm going pre-2002. I'm the only person in this thing that's 40. So that's a big theme. And then some stuff that you would think would be working is not working as well. Actually, I was swapping text just a minute ago with a client of ours that's leveraging social selling on LinkedIn, and something that would historically have worked very well. They're going after marketing agencies and marketers at marketing agencies, is not working at all. So I think really what it's coming down to is like the deck is so reshuffled. You got to go back to actually rerunning all of your plays, measuring them, seeing what's working, seeing what's not, and suspending all of your personal biases along the way.
Our sales team is going to clip the hell out of you saying the thing about mobile numbers, because when we built LeadIQ, we tried to focus on just getting mobiles. I'll give a point for people that that's kind of, I think, fair. Everybody I know that's in SaaS or in business to business or just doing sales in general generally has work email, has their work email on their phone. So if you're going to put work email on your phone, what's really the difference? It's just another way of communicating. If you don't want to tick people off when you're doing your cold calling or anything like that, make the person feel special. Don't just do a script. Like, I think it's a good idea to like find something you want to say that makes it really relevant to the person and helps them out. At the end of the day, it's just a person talking to another person. You're trying to help them. You know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah, the 3x3 research, which is the term that I coined a long time ago, 10 years ago, and it all kind of means the same thing. You know, you hear about the various why now or all that, but what it comes down to is we've been told that the buyers have more information than ever before. We've all been told that woe is us as salespeople. They're all so informed and we have no information. That is a bunch of nonsense. Salespeople have more information than ever before. They just don't know how to get it. Ironically, in many cases, the buyers know more about us than the salespeople know about the buyers. That's completely backwards. Like, the buyers are Googling us as salespeople in the process. It's like, guys, salespeople, get out there and understand who the hell you're selling to and talking to. I don't care what sales role you're in, your batting average is going to be way better.
So obviously people are calling mobiles. That's a big difference now. What's working for opening up on a mobile line? Do you just treat it like you used to with a desk phone, or do you do something different?
You do. You don't say it specifically. So, hey, Ryan, Steve, ExecVision, how's it going? Good. Steve, you know this is my mobile number. Oh, geez, I'm sorry, Ryan. I didn't realize that's the number I had for you. You prefer I call you back at another time. And inevitably, this is what you're going to get. When you back off, it's like the tango. When you back off of them, they come towards you. So then they will say, what's this regarding? It happens almost every time. And then this is the key. At that point, don't pitch. If you pitch, you're dead. Your probability of being dead is like 90%. Instead, that's where you use your pre-call research. Actually, the reason I was getting in touch with you is I saw you and I are connected by way of Jonathan Mazza. Oh, yeah, I know him. Or, hey, I saw that video of you spitting rhymes on YouTube, and that's why I'm reaching out. You say something about them. And if it's nothing about them, maybe it's about the company. I saw a new product launch you've got going on, or I saw you're hiring for technical recruiters, which is why I'm in touch, or we're connected by way of this other person, or we have a client that looks a lot like you. But whatever it is, it's that connective tissue. And after that, your chances of getting their open attention, usually they go, oh, actually, that's fine. I'm just driving. What's going on? And then they listen.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they get caught up in thinking like, I got to pitch, I got to get to the next person and stuff. If you just take a minute and figure out the mapping for this stuff, what I recommend is if you're doing like, let's say you're using a sales engagement platform or something and you're doing multiple steps in your prospecting. I actually like opening up with email first, because you can do the research on an email and guarantee something's going to get delivered, as opposed to like call, you do research, and then you don't get the connect. It kind of stinks. But the research you did in the email, you can then reuse when you're doing your call for the initial setup.
That's right. And actually, there's a tie down there to LinkedIn too. So what we're seeing is that the connecting on LinkedIn, the key to connecting on LinkedIn is don't ask for anything. That's the thing that people get wrong. So change that generic message to a specific thing. Use that 3x3 research, that pre-call research. And then you use this line. This is the key line. looking forward to our paths crossing. Just looking forward to our paths crossing. It's very cool, casual. It's like we're at the beach in the summertime. Hey, maybe I'll see you later, that kind of thing. And then they connect, because all you're trying to get them to do is accept the connection request. And once you do that, your probability when you get them on the phone of getting the appointment goes up pretty substantially. So those are the kinds of things you can do along the way. Another one that's interesting that I'm looking at tracking is different is offers. I've been into this for about 1.5 years, but I've seen the evolution. And here's what I mean by an offer. An offer is basically, what do you want me as the buyer or the prospect or the customer? These can even be your customers. What do you want me to do? And, a lot of people are very clever on doing things like inviting them to be on a podcast or be a part of a peer roundtable, certainly inviting to webinars and things like that. Now, there's the whole kind of like sending them something like the Sendoso path. There's that path as well. But I'll tell you what seems to be working the best out of all of them right now is experiences, shared experiences. Because people have been in their houses for so long. I've been doing Japanese whiskey tastings, wine and cheese tasting. They literally just ship this stuff right to your house. I did one the other day with a beer expert. It's kind of hard to say no to that kind of thing when it comes across your desk, but you got to be careful with it because it's expensive. It's expensive, but I'll tell you what, you get great engagement. Every one of those things that I've been invited to that I've said yes to, I look around the room and I go on LinkedIn and look at the names and I go, they're good. Like, these are good contacts. Like, so now all of a sudden they're getting engagement with like 15, 20 people at the same time. So it's the beginning with that pre-call research. It's not hitting them too hard with a pitch. It's more talk about trends and topics in the middle. And then finally, what's the offer? What do we want? What do you want them to do at the end? And you're kind of, honestly, your weakest offer is like, take a demo with me or talk to me as a sales rep. Your strongest offer is like, hey, you want to talk to our CEO? Hey, do you want to do this Japanese whiskey tasting? And oh, by the way, we're gonna share best practices in blank data management.
Japanese whiskey. I'm gonna have to look into some of that.
Freaking cool idea though, right? I mean, like, such a cool idea. And then when the guy did it and they show you a few things, they're like, don't, you know how you take wine and you go like put your nose in it, like, they're like, if you do that, it burns out all your nostrils. So they said, go further away with whiskey when you're tasting whiskey, open your mouth and just kind of go, like, you almost like breathe in a little through your nose and your mouth at the same time. And I did, I was like, holy shit. Like, I was doing this all wrong the whole time. You know what I mean? I've drank whiskey my whole life, but not like that.
Like you're in awe of what you're about to drink.
Yeah. That's amazing. Oh, yeah. And speaking of engagement, chat, if you have any questions about Japanese whiskey or sales techniques, please put your questions in the chat, and Steve and the rest of us will be happy to answer them.
I want to ask Raj a question and then get Steve to pepper in some stuff to make it more, I don't know, just to make it cool. Raj, what do you think about, like, how do you do the transition though of like whiskey to pitch? How do you get there? Like, what's the best way to do that?
Well, okay. The wrong way is, speaking of whiskey, let me tell you. Which I've seen a lot. Actually, like, you see it a lot in like emails, actually, right? Where someone they do some kind of hook up front that's like personalized, but then it has nothing to do with whatever the email is about. And it's just like, oh, I'm getting them to read that first part. And then you almost sacrifice the rest of it. So at least I can see it from an email sense. And then Steve, maybe you can pepper it on how that would apply to a call as well. I always say, like, you got to have a natural segue for why you would be reaching out then. So I don't know, let's take, at least in the email sense, it's like, you see something on their profile, or let's take this one, right? You see they just got like really good rating on G2. And you could lead with something about their G2 score. And then you got to have a segue, a natural segue about why that's relevant to whatever you're about to pitch them. So it could be, for example, like, I bring that up because I've actually been working with a few other companies who also have really strong G2 scores. And here are some of the challenges they've told me they have. Right. And so now it makes sense why G2 would be the reason I'm reaching out, and ultimately connects to the rest of the email. Without that segue, without that natural segue, it's just it's like two disparate thoughts, and I think it kills the rest. It kills whatever they might read beyond that, unless, I don't know, you just happen to be so amazing in that introduction that they don't even care what the rest of the email says.
I wish I had more like data on that, what you're talking about, Raj, because I swear every single time I had that natural segue, it was like obscene the amount of replies, when you're able to do that natural segue into whatever you were talking about and what you were mentioning in that first line, it's like almost guaranteed a reply. It's much better than a coin flip.
Yeah, Maz, let me give you one of the I call these like connecting phrases that I see in here. So Raj, love that. That's exactly right. They'll say, that got me thinking. We are working with a company that's also a market leader on G2 Crowd, and they were struggling with XYZ. We have this Japanese whiskey tasting event coming up, and oh, by the way, we're going to be talking about that topic as part of it. So it's not just like Japanese whiskey tasting for the sake of Japanese whiskey tasting, and everybody who goes knows they're being sold to, but in a more of a passive way, not as an active way. And then you have discussion on the topic. Now, the thing I've been to a lot of these now, the thing I've seen that people screw up is they have this really long lead in and they have everybody introduce themselves. And by the time they're finally getting to you got to do the experience first, then get back to the discussion of the topic. So by the time you're actually tasting your first whiskey, you're like 20 minutes into an hour, and then you don't have enough time to talk about the topic or get through all the whiskeys. So it's like, keep it crisp, keep it on point. Just like this show, you guys have been doing a hell of a job.
Well, thank you. I mean, we're talking about prospecting and sales a little bit, right?
Plus, you got a little bit of a buzz going on too when you start drinking the whiskey and then you start talking.
Oh, this product sounds great.
Yeah, sounds amazing.
I'll buy 10.
If you're listening to this, I think the big takeaway for this is you can create an experience for someone. I think one of the things that I've been trying to do, Steve, I've been actually thinking about this a lot because we're building some stuff around account planning for content in the next couple months. A lot of what you do in your biggest differentiator as a sales rep or as a prospector or a closer or whatever you are, even though there's all these products, there's so many products, and I'm sure Patrick Campbell can talk about this when we introduce him in a couple minutes, but there's so many different companies that are out there that do a lot of the same thing. Your biggest differentiator is actually going to be you. That's what it comes down to. If I have to pick between, Steve, for you, for example, you guys are in a really crowded space. I know people that have personally picked you guys because of you. I talk to them and be like, hey, who's good? What's going on here? And they just talk about it's the differentiator between stuff is whatever you can offer to the prospect. So creating those experiences is invaluable.
Yeah, and then you got to ask yourself the question, what's the one thing that you're better at? Maybe not your company, but you. What's the one thing that you're your superpower? What's the one thing you're really good at relative to your peers? And then, hopefully that adds value to your buyers, and then that you're leveraging that part along the way. Because here's the reality. Right now, I say this sentence all the time. A piece of technology alone is not going to solve the business problem. And every time I say that, everyone nods. They go, yep, you're right. But at the same time, you still see these buyers that go out and they buy a technology, a shiny thing that's popular. And then later on, you talk to them, you say, how's it going? They're like, I mean, it's going pretty well. Did it solve your business problem? No, it didn't solve the business problem. So I think that humans have recognized the fact that this notion of everything's going to be automated, it's all going to be machines and everything. It is a bunch of nonsense. You got to have the people involved with it. You got to have the services involved with it. And then ideally you can package it. So for us, Ryan, as you're mentioning, we do I do a thing called the Sales Prospecting Academy. It's a top of funnel training that I combine with ExecVision for people in many cases, or if they don't need that, something called the Call Coaching Academy, because their managers don't know how to coach. So it's I come from a sales training and a consulting background. I'm going to leverage some of that stuff over here to increase the value by a little bit. So if the domino could fall, towards another conversation intelligence tool, unnamed, which one I'm talking about, or towards us, a lot of times the domino will fall towards us because of that extra service, because they're going to go, this is close enough, but we're going to get that done. Let's sign up. Yep. And you don't have to discount. You don't have to discount as much either.
Yeah. It becomes a lever that you can offer. And I think this is actually a really good transition to introduce our next guest to add to the combo. Don't worry, Steve and Raj are going to hang out so they can attack my opinions as I say stuff and maybe spit some rap tracks at me. This next person that we're adding in is Patrick Campbell. He's CEO, co-founder of Profitwell, Price Intelligently. I've been a huge fan of theirs. We were literally, I think when I joined LeadIQ and there were 3 people working here, we were using their platform to track our revenue. We've done some of their pricing workshops. I've been dying to do stuff with Patrick pretty much since last year. We were going to do an event last year and COVID kind of monsooned us with stuff, so we couldn't do it. Everyone say hi to Patrick Campbell. My voice
Hey,
cracked as I said your name.
I like it. I like it. What's going on, everybody? How are you? It's good to see some familiar faces. And I don't know, Raj, that rap track, you definitely won. I'm just gonna put it that way. But also, I don't know. That was some skill, guys. That was some skill. Participation trophies all around, but Raj gets the win.
Well, I don't know if we highlighted this up front. They didn't know. I didn't like message them saying, "Hey guys, by the way, I'm about to like release this and put it out." Like they didn't know.
That's what
in
makes it
advance that I
so
was
much
doing
better.
that. I just threw it up there.
Yeah, I love that.
And actually, Ryan and John and I have never actually had a conversation before
Right.
until we
Even
started
better.
doing the diss tracks.
It just gets so much better.
It was raw. It was authentic.
This
Like
is
it.
like
Beef
what's-
brings us all together.
this is like not that I've watched it, but I've glanced at it. This is like You Got Mail, and I'm Meg Ryan, and he's Tom Hanks, and like we've been exchanging stuff online, but we've never fallen in love in person. Maybe someday.
That is a metaphor to use in this situation, I suppose. But
I always wanted to be Meg Ryan.
I was
Patrick,
just a little hurt that you said maybe someday. I thought.
So
okay,
Steve was bringing up. So Steve was bringing up a lot of stuff with like pre-funnel and closing the deal and stuff. One of the things that I thought would be perfect to pair you two up to talk about a lot is retention, dealing with retention. How do you go about like keeping customers? Steve mentioned like the training stuff you're doing, Steve, probably helps keep customers and makes it so that they can't leave you and they love you. Patrick, what's some stuff you've been seeing on the retention side? I'm sure a ton of companies have dealt with churn the past year.
yeah, so maybe to transition this from a lot of the stuff Steve was talking about. So first, the stuff that Steve and even Raj, you guys were throwing in there, like I am nowhere near the level on kind of the pre-funnel, if not even in the sales part. I can tell you from a data perspective. So for context, we have about 20% of the entire subscription market using Profitwell. So there's a lot of data we're able to kind of study. Onboarding and training, companies that do onboarding and training typically have about 20 to 30% better retention, those customers who went through the onboarding and the training. There is a little bit of an impact on conversion, but that impact on conversion actually is only relegated to very inexpensive products. So like $200 a month or less, where typically you're not going to be doing a lot of onboarding and training in general. And so long story short, it doesn't really affect your conversion that much, but it will affect your retention in a very noticeable way, at least net. Couple other little factoids for kind of the sales process. I think discounting, you have to be careful. And I know this is, I'm walking into a lion's den of kind of a sales show talking about discounting. So very, very dangerous. But here's the thing. And I think any, and here I'll set you up with this. Any like good sales leader knows this as well. So try to fight this now. Basically, like if someone's winning the deal because of the discount, like that's the reason the deal's being won. It's just really bad for retention. So to give you a little bit of, and there's some exceptions here. Typically, if a discount starts getting over 20-25%, there's a noticeable drop in retention for those customers who have a large discount versus those who have a small one. Now, if you're a discounting type brand or your persona is very, very discount orientated, that kind of heuristic is definitely not the right one for you. But we typically see this, especially in B2B, where we actually have the data on this, where you'll have certain heavy discounting sales cultures where you look at their progress towards the quarterly goal, and it's kind of like this pregnant curve where it's like not good, all of a sudden discount, and they might hit their number, but then when you look at that cohort compared to those who didn't receive the discount, typically those customers are churning at a double, if not triple the rate, depending on the size of the discount. So those are a couple of things like kind of pre-sale or kind of right at that point of sale that work really well when it comes to retention. And there's a bunch of other stuff we can talk about in terms of retention after the fact, but I'll kind of pause there so we can have a sales battle if we need to,
Hey,
although I don't think I said anything.
Ryan, can I ask him a question?
Of course. I was about to be like, Steve, what do you think?
No.
All right, I jumped the gun. But see, this is where I geek out. I start hearing this stuff because I'm no pricing expert. That's the last thing I know about. So Patrick, this is interesting. I know of a company that they figured this out. Maybe it's one of your clients for all I know. And then what they did is they changed their sales comp plan. So all the new business sales reps were being comped a bigger portion actually in the first year, the first renewal, than even in the upfront contract. I thought that was kind of interesting and novel when I saw it for the first time. So I'm just curious as to, Now that people know this, what steps are they taking in sales comp?
Yeah. So basically, and you guys know this better than I would, sales comp is where you fix a lot of these problems, right? You either comp on margin or the renewal or a whole host of other things. So people have done what you've said. If I talk about the bad people, the people who don't do this well, because that's most companies, normally what they do is they dump it on customer success. And basically they say, oh, the person didn't renew, it's customer success's fault. We have the data to back this up, where customer success is a terrible helper for churn. They're not there to help with churn. Churn has to do with setting up the right type of customer for the right product. So churn is more of a product problem as well as a persona problem. And then ultimately, customer success really helps with expansion. And so to the light that you're kind of saying, I think a lot of times it depends on like what the ACV is and a couple of other things. But that's one of the best things to do, is to get in front of the sales comp, because, I know it's said in sometimes a derogatory way. I think it's actually a positive way, is like sales folks are coin operated. They look at their comp. If their comp is going to get affected, they're going to get you better customers. I know we've been through a couple of rodeos with that, where we changed some of our sales comp, and like the goal we thought that was going to take a year, like happened within a quarter, because, people want to get to their numbers.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm also seeing is, I think from a relationship standpoint, when you do end of quarter discounting, I also think it kind of hurts the relationship with the deal. It almost like if I'm working with someone and I'm doing the negotiation phase or something, and trying to get a price down on a vendor that I might be buying or something like that, I always kind of feel a little hurt when like I get it down 30% or 40%, and it's way different than like, wait a minute.
Why didn't you start there?
Yeah, like was I not worthy of being a customer enough for you to discount it? I had to heckle and do that stuff. I almost think the exercise can hurt that. Let me ask something to Steve really quick to kick this over, and then we'll get back to talking more about retention, Patrick. Steve, what do you recommend is the best practice for what to deal with when a customer is asking for a discount?
Yeah, it's a good question. Actually, it's funny. I posted one of my tips of the day the other day at the end of Q1, there, end of March, and I said, guys, this is the time to discount. This is going to be unpopular amongst the chief sales officers. I mean, look, the deal is you got to obviously sell on value. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. You actually have to really understand what business issue they're trying to address. People are motivated by three things: fix a problem, accomplish a goal, avoid a risk. Way smarter people than me taught me that before. And it's true. I mean, and most people don't look at the risk avoidance, but de-risking something, especially right now, is an area that we should all be looking at much more closely. So if you have it aligned, so we have real clear expectations on like, here's the business problem, or here's what you want to accomplish, here's how we're going to measure it, we wouldn't have to necessarily discount as much. And we've got all the different decision makers lined up. So good consultative selling along the way is going to be your best antidote away from it, including having a good implementation and customer success plan. So people are already kind of projecting into the future, but still when push comes to shove, people like to get a deal. So the best practice that I've seen is you sprinkle that little extra cherry on top in the end, try to give them a little extra service. And if that's not enough, give them a little bit of a discount on the price. And that's good. And try to avoid those 20%ers like you're talking about, Patrick.
Yeah. I think just to jump in, I know I wasn't asked the question, but just to piggyback off that, like, that's exactly right. Like I think the distinction that Steve just said is really important around like the 20%, and your threshold for your company is going to be a little bit different depending on what it is. But like, it's not a sledgehammer. It's a scalpel. It's a sweetener to just get the deal and get a little urgency. And I think too many people treat it as like, great, do whatever has to get done. And there are some businesses you can kind of justify that, especially if you have a ton of funding and stuff, but problems only get bigger, and those problems are going to be dumped onto other areas of your business, either your integration team, your activation team, your support team, whatever it is. And, sometimes you got to make those calls, but again, like, use discounts in a right way. Don't, it's not a debate of do them or not do them. It's just use them in the right way.
Can I ask him a question, Ryan? Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course. Here,
I got a pricing expert. I think normally I got to pay for Patrick's time. So Patrick, I know of the situation of a company, and then Ryan, I'll give you back. Okay. But Patrick,
I want to hear this too.
I know of a situation of this company where they basically have to like essentially reprice in the marketplace right now, meaning they're realizing over time their competitive pricing relative to other offerings is not correct. and they should really be at more probably like 60% of what existing customers are paying in order to be able to then sell the new logos. See what I mean? So it's almost like a repricing problem. But what they can't do is like if they drop the prices across the board, then their customers are going to be pissed. But at the same time, they know that the kind of market value is more in the line in here. So how do you handle that? I mean, you have any ideas on that?
Yeah. So there's the strategic piece and then there's the tactical piece. And so just to start with the strategic piece, this is why what's called value-based pricing is so important. And value-based pricing means actually doing research from a customer and a prospect perspective rather than a competitive perspective. Because in the world of software and even subscriptions in general that aren't software, like there isn't enough competitive pressure to make a commodity type pricing decision where you're basically just comparing with other vendors out there. But we grasp onto competitive based pricing because it's like the only data that is really easy to get theoretically, right? So it's not that you shouldn't use that data, but your primary data you should use is value based. And I know a lot of people say that, never explain deeper, so I'm happy to go deeper on that. But the basic idea is you want to understand like willingness to pay as much as possible from a market perspective. So when you do that in this particular context, you make sure that you're figuring out where that market is rather than like guessing and checking based on competitors, where you're always going to overemphasize competitors in your mind versus what your customers are actually doing. Now, practically, let's say they did some research, they figured this out, however they got to the answer, you know, we can talk about that separate thread. What you should do is basically fix this with packaging, at least in the short term. So there, you put your existing customers on package A, all of a sudden package B, which is going to be less priced, takes something out to justify the difference between package A and B. So sometimes what it is it's, hey, everyone on this particular tier now gets priority support. And you can throw some little stuff in there. If you can make it an actual piece of product, that's great, because you can say it with a little bit more of a straight face. But then what you end up doing is you have to have some other product. And then eventually you're going to want to kind of get people on the right plan that makes sense. And so that might be eventually some of these people are going to downgrade, but then you should also have some other plans on the other end to kind of offset that with upgrades, because it just inevitably happens where there's going to be more people who churn, then they come back, they're on the cheaper plan, so on and so forth. But you solve this basically through packaging, and some of the packaging can be pretty loose, meaning it's not actual physical product, but try to make it as much product as you can to differentiate these plans.
Patrick, how important is it to have your packaging be correct for preventing churn? Like if you're trying to fix retention and stuff, like is that if someone's buying the wrong package, is that one of the reasons people churn?
Yeah, all the time. And this is where it's my favorite topic ever, the pricing metric or your value metric. And you know, LeadIQ, you guys have a great one. It's really how you charge, right? And this is where like the easiest thing, Steve, for this particular example is, right now, everyone gets 100 what's-its or widgets, whatever the package is right now. Make that new 60% less or 40% less package. Make it, you know, half or whatever it ends up being for the amount of usage there is. And the reason for this is that when you price on a value metric, you make sure that you're not charging Disney the same price as you're charging a small startup. It's kind of back in that econ class where, you know, your professor said a price point on the demand curve and said, oh, this is the revenue. Well, with a value metric, you essentially have infinite price points for your product. And it allows people to always get what they're actually paying for and not have a situation where a lot of people have had with old school software where they're sitting there and they go, oh, I'm only using 30% of the features I have. Like, why am I paying so much when I'm only using 30% of the product? It avoids that situation, and more pricing is moving in the value metric direction. And to give you some actual numbers, revenue churn is typically half when you're using a value metric based pricing versus feature differentiated. Expansion revenue is typically double because people, it's not a sales conversation. It's, hey, you're using 100 now, and yesterday you were using 90. Congratulations, that's awesome. You must be getting a ton of value. We're just going to bump you up to the next tier, rather than, hey, do you want this new feature? Like, I want to get you on the next plan, and there's this really cool feature you should be using, which is just an entirely new sales conversation. So yeah, that's in terms of packaging, the thing that I would really harp on, because it bakes growth into how you make money, and it also helps with that retention because people are only paying for essentially what they're using, but also like where they're actually getting the value.
So Patrick, I think this is a really fascinating conversation. And one thing I find particularly interesting is this idea of like figuring out the discount up front to be able to get the customer in. A quick anecdote I want to share with that is that's actually a way with like a cable company. You can pay lower. So basically what I mean is, let's say the cable company is running like a fall special where it's like, bundled package for 20% off for all new customers. You can call your cable company and say, hey, I've been a loyal paying customer for 2 years now. I deserve that deal. Because why should they get it? They've never been a customer before. I've been paying you for 2 years. I should get that deal. And that's actually a way to get the cable company to agree to be charging you less for your bill. And I've successfully done that in the past.
And what's interesting is what the cable companies do, and that's the good ones. And I don't want to say good ones as if I love cable companies. I think everyone universally hates cable companies.
You're peddling for cable companies.
I know, it's like talking about cigarette manufacturers, I feel, right? But like what they end up doing is they end up actually saving you in a lot of cases by saying, oh, well, that deal, it doesn't have this part of the feature. And they basically make up what the feature is. And it might be like the throttle time, it might be like the service uptime, these types of things. And that's kind of how they get around packaging. And this is like the dark side of packaging, where it's like, that's kind of what I was explaining with Steve's question, which is like, okay, well, yeah, we can offer this option. It just doesn't have these features. And these features, maybe I don't care about them as a customer, but they start to get you thinking. And yes, there are going to be some people who are going to be, I don't want to say smarter, but they're going to be like, I know what you're kind of doing. Forget it. Just get me on the lower price. But if half of them don't go to the lower price and I'm getting this inbound from the discounted deal, they're winning, right? Like they're winning. And that's where it's like, everything's a little bit more complicated, right? And you can use complication to your advantage in these types of situations. These are known as like salvage offers, basically, which not enough companies are doing. Like whenever someone wants to cancel, like a lot of our instinct is just, all right, great, see ya. And it's like, no, ask why. And depending on what they say, if they say, oh, I didn't get a chance to use the product as much, oh, I'm going to be back, these types of things, offer up a salvage offer. Well, hey, you didn't get a chance? Let me get you the next month free for a 3-month commitment. Right? Or let me give you your next month at 50% off. I still have that customer. And even if I get 30% of people to do that, holy cow, we're all buying yachts, right? It's going to be amazing, right? Now, the alternative is, oh, you're going to leave? Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Well, why don't I offer you this like $10 per month or $1 per month tier? I'll save all of your data. I don't want to delete all your data. Like, let me save all your data. And some people are going to care and some people aren't, but that's totally fine. And when they come back, they actually have a much better experience because all their data, all their personalizations are saved within your product versus like, oh, they're gone. And, now they have to come back and start all over again, which is going to be a harder thing to do to basically get them back in the product. So there's all these little things that you can do. And, there's lines where it becomes very like, okay, that's not gray anymore. That's like being nefarious, right? But it's one of those things where if you think through this as not a binary game, a lot of times you're just trying to reduce the amount of people who are going to leave you and obviously increase the number of people who are going to come to you.
Do you have any data, Patrick, on people that leave that come back? Like, is boomeranging a thing? Like, do you know like what percentage of customers will boomerang back?
It depends on the product. There's a certain categories of products that are episodic. So technically you guys, LeadIQ, you could be episodic for very small companies, right? You give them a certain number of leads, they can't work them all. Like they're like, I'll come back in 2 months or something like that. Like theoretically you could have that. Like anything where you're kind of checking like rendering or something like that, like email rendering software like Litmus is very much like this, where there's certain leads that just aren't going to use the product once every 3 to 6 months. So in that world, there's 30% of customers that boomerang basically in a given time period. But other products, like if you're an infrastructure product, like a CRM product, people don't really come back. It's probably 5 to 10% over time. Like for example, like we bought Salesforce early on because we were like, of course, we use Salesforce. We're like 3 salespeople. Like, it didn't make any sense, right? But now we're back because now we have a proper sales team, and it's like, well, we needed to speak with everything, and they're really the only ones who do this right now for a higher growth sales team, right? So it just kind of depends on like what type of product you are. And I will say that for most people, like your canceled customers, it's an amazing marketing and sales channel because you don't have to re-educate them. Hey, we came out with this new feature. I know you left before because you didn't feel like we had these features. Now we have a bunch of features. Let's talk, right? And those are calls and those are audits that you can get on the books in order to kind of juice your numbers in a good way. But not enough people just think of it that way. They think, oh, that person's gone. I want to forget them forever, when in reality, they're really, really aware of what you're doing at least.
Yeah, they're just wearing mascara and their tears are running and they're ripping out the scrapbook and getting rid of pictures of them with the customer.
Yeah.
Steve, I wanted to ask you a question about this actually. So you've obviously trained a ton of teams. Have you ever talked to anyone or helped anyone get advice on like selling back to customers they might have lost?
You know what? No, I'm just going to say it straight. No, Raj, have you done that? I haven't done that actually.
Yeah, actually, so interestingly enough, that actually just came up with one of my clients over the last 1 or 2 weeks. And I think you can approach, the way I was talking to them about approaching it is basically saying, you don't necessarily have to like highlight, hey, you left us as a customer, because they know they did, right? It's not like, it's if you don't mention it, it's not like they didn't know it didn't happen. So you can kind of leave that out and just say, hey, just wanted to let you know, not say just wanted to let you know, here's what we're doing with these companies right now, or here's what our current customers have been asking us for. And you can just bullet point, A, B, and C. Just thought that might be on your mind as well. Let me know if you're interested. And essentially what you're doing is you're not really selling them anything in that moment or pitching them anything. You're just kind of saying, hey, other people who are our customers or who we are talking to on a day-to-day basis, they're talking about these things. So I have to imagine there's a decent chance it could possibly be on your mind as well. So you just kind of like tease it up in that way to get them thinking.
Hey, Raj, actually, as you were talking, I realized I lied to you. I do have one thing. And it's actually pretty similar to what you said, but it's actually more of a like re-engaging old opportunities. We call it ex-significant other. Yeah, same thing. Ex-significant other. So if you're trying to get back together with an ex-girlfriend or ex-boyfriend, what do you never do? You don't talk about the past. What do? You talk about what's changed. So you just quite simply say, hey, Ryan, it's been a long time. A lot has changed with us. I'm sure a lot's changed with you. Let's get a cup of coffee. It's the same thing, Raj, that you're done.
Yeah.
Well, I thought the way to get back with an ex was to send a 10 p.m. text that just says, sup?
What's up?
Definitely angry rap. Angry rap's a good way to go.
What are you going to say,
The one
Pat?
thing I was going to say, like, it's very similar to like close loss campaigns, I think. Like, you guys know this better than I would. Like, so much of sales is timing, like, and that's why, like, especially if you're doing like higher ACV stuff. And so I think for us, I just looked in our Salesforce and basically like it's about a week and a half of ops a quarter come from either people who have churned or like closed loss. So it's not nothing, like it's not like our major lead source, but I think you can get a lot of folks back, especially with that timing aspect.
I always like to focus on the reason they chose you in the first place too.
There you go.
Mention that right up front. Like, this is the reason why you chose us the first time. And this is what has changed since you last became a customer, or since you left us, or since you shunned us and locked the door behind us or whatever. But I definitely like to focus on like why they chose us in the first place.
Sure.
So one thing I was going to add, it's kind of similar to what Steve and Raj were saying too. Look at this past year too, is a good example. How different are businesses now than they were in February of 2020, even just February of 2020? Like, people aren't in offices anymore. People are remote. People are talking. I know it's kind of a cliche thing. You're all rolling your eyes, like talking about remote work. I'm not trying to focus on that, but like these businesses have changed completely. I mean, we're hiring remotely now at LeadIQ. That's my plug, by the way. Go to leadiq.com/careers. But we're hiring at LeadIQ, and like back in the day, we would only hire people in 3 pods of offices. Now we're hiring people across the country. That's a huge change for us. That means that there's been new problems that have arisen. Maybe we need project management software. Maybe we need to get better at communicating with each other. There's all kinds of random problems that are now existing that didn't exist less than a year ago. And if you're selling to fast growth companies and startups and SaaS companies and stuff, they're going through those changes too. What we're doing as a company is very different than it was 6 months ago.
And that's actually why, so in the strategy we just talked about, right, that re-engagement strategy, it's not solely about what are you doing for other companies now. It's also about what have they been asking you about recently? What challenges have they brought up, at your existing customer base, whoever they might be? what new challenges have they been asking you about and talking to you about? And that's something you can go back to these old leads and say, these old leads or these old customers you used to have, that exact same template where it's like, hey, here's some of the new challenges that our customers have asked us about. We're working with them through that right now. Thought it might be on your mind as well. And I did a version of that. I wrote about this a couple of weeks ago. I did a version of that last year in late March. Right. So pandemic hits, everyone's freaking out, right? And I did a LinkedIn DM campaign. And at that point, admittedly, I was using an automated software, but I always tried to make it look like it wasn't automated, right? And I just looked at, okay, well, what did like all my customers, all my clients, like what was the thing that they started asking me for? And it was really like, they were so worried about what to do with outbound themselves. How do we still generate leads when everyone's freaking out and we don't want to sound tone deaf and all that stuff? And so my message was just like, I don't know, it was just like, hey, crazy times, and like end of March, you could still say crazy times and it wasn't cliche yet.
Yeah, now it's kind of
yeah, right. So I was like, hey, crazy times. My current customers have been asking me about how they can still generate leads so they don't hit a total sales freeze. Thought that could be on your mind as well. Let me know if you want to discuss. And that got like a 20% response rate, and I think like a 10-ish% meeting booking rate. Off of just saying, here's what other people have told me they're freaking out about.
So notice, I'll give you a perfect example of this. Notice I have Patrick on here today, right? Patrick, what's something that's unique that you have that none of us here have? You have access to thousands of SaaS companies.
A lot of data.
Yeah. A lot of data. That's what Raj has. I'm sorry, that's what Patrick has. Raj talks to tons of startups, knows about sales strategy. Maza and I are talking to individual reps, managers, operations, sales enablement. Steve's probably actually talking to very similar people also. We all have, you as a sales rep, even though you have your network you could offer people, you've got access and experiences you can offer, like we talked about with Steve. But the other thing that you have is you have insight from talking to thousands of customers that are just like them. And they don't have access to that most of the time. Like, unless you're selling to someone that's in your space. Like, if I were selling to ExecVision, it's probably like, you know what I'm going to say, Steve, and I know what you're going to say in a pitch deck. But if I'm selling to like IBM and you're selling to IBM, we have unique perspective that we can add to IBM that they haven't thought about before.
Hey, Ryan, this is the question, 2 questions you got to ask every time. What do they sell? Who do they sell to? I just did one of my little daily tips on this one. It's a simple pre-call planning method. Now, I know a lot of you are like, well, I sell to state governments. Well, I know state governments don't sell anything, but they have constituents. They have a mission. They have to serve somebody. So like everybody has a master or boss or, a customer base or something like that. So who is it? And then based on that, what's probably changed in their world and who are you doing business is doing something similar? And you get back to that place where, Raj, I'm not surprised to hear that, because the reality is the company that understands, all the analyst firms like the Gartners and the Forresters in the world, when they study this stuff, they say that the company that understands the problems or the challenges or the goals or the risks is the one that wins the deal 60 or 70% of the time. Well, there you go. So right off the bat, Raj, in that situation, because you just understand the sorts of things they care about. And I got kind of a rule of thumb for this, and it goes back to I myself have started 3 companies, so I get it. Anytime I hear the same question twice, for me, that's like a tip-off triangulation. I have to write a blog on it. I have to do a video blog or something, because everybody else is thinking about the same thing. 1 random question, no, but 2 questions, the same exact question, write a blog.
Yeah, I think that's great. So we are at time. We wasted 15 minutes of showing you rap videos. I hope that was great to inform everybody.
I think
For
it's
anyone
time
who's
well
left.
spent.
I don't think it was a waste. I thought it was great.
You guys are welcome, by the way. I just want to give everyone a chance to plug something if they want to on our end. We're going to be doing more of these B2B Tonight episodes. Maza, what do we have next? Who's next on the docket? Do you have that ready? Are you ready to answer that?
I'm actually ready this time. We have Lauren Bailey and Alex Greer.
Oh, cool. For people that don't know, Lauren does a ton of stuff on training and helping teams. Actually, Steve, you and Lauren are buddies, right?
Yeah, Ted Martin. He's running their company basically. Tell Lauren I said that.
Oh, okay.
My old guy. He's my old guy. He knows Lauren through the AISP, and that's where we met Ryan. But yeah, Ted Martin is their chief revenue officer, and Lauren's phenomenal. LB.
And, Alex Greer worked at Signal HQ before and got acquired by Bombora. He's actually doing something new apparently, but we're going to talk to him about some stuff involving some tactics you can do on LinkedIn to get more prospects and stuff. So look forward to that. Patrick, what do you want to plug?
Just if you're a subscription company, Profitwell.com, we got the most accurate and comprehensive subscription financial metrics, and they're all free. Takes 2 minutes to sign up with your billing system, and we publish a ton of content. So check us out at Profitwell.com.
I will tell you this. I went to one of the workshops you did, Patrick, last year. I'm not making this up. I swear to God, everyone listen. We tripled our average contract value going to this workshop. So you should listen to these guys. They know a lot of stuff. Steve, you're probably going to text me after and be like, what did you do? And I'll tell you. And lastly, Raj, thanks for making a cameo appearance and storming on. What do you want to plug?
Let me first plug Patrick for Patrick. So I have the Profitwell trading cards that was part of their recent drop. And that's a plug to say subscribe to Profitwell's content, because not only, and I was on a podcast earlier this week, and one of the closing questions was, whose content are you absorbing more recently? And I said, everybody go out and subscribe to Profitwell's content. Not only is it really good insight, but they're doing a lot of fun stuff like trading cards and stuff like that. On my end, my plug would be, reach out to me on LinkedIn, Raj Nation. You can type in, and it'll show up. And then we just launched a new season of Startup Hype Man, the podcast. So we do interviews every week with company leaders on different growth strategies. And we got some cool ones, including what might be relevant to this audience in particular. Coming up in a couple of weeks is Christina Brady, the president of Sales Assembly, is my guest, talking about how to successfully transition an SDR into an AE.
Oh, that's a good topic. I assume that my invite to your podcast is in my spam folder, right? It got.
We'll see the results of the contest here with who gets the votes, and then we'll see if a podcast is
All right. Well, thank you everyone for being on. Thanks again to Patrick, Steve, Raj. Thank you, Maza, and we appreciate it. We're gonna sign off at this point. Thanks everyone for attending. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everybody.
This is my freeze frame.
Wow. We love you.